Welcome to Kaiser Voices, the story of success, brought to you by Kaiser University Graduate School, here where the academic world meets personal triumph. Join us today as we dive into the captivating tales of success.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Kaiser Voices. And today we're going international. Joining us, you all know and love Dr. Stefan Diaz. He is joining us, although from Orlando, he is originally from Brazil. And with him today are two good friends and colleagues of his, Dr. Victoria Zaborova. She is joining us from Russia. A little bit about her, and we're going to include complete bios of all of our guests below, so be sure you check out the comments and the descriptions below. But Dr. Victoria is the head of the Sports Adaptology Laboratory in Russia, also called Pro Sport Lab. She has an extensive background in physiology as well as sports. So that's going to be part of our conversation today, and you're going to hear a little bit more about her expertise in this area. And also joining us from Portugal, Dr. Victor Reis. He is currently a full-time professor at the University from UTAD in Portugal. He's also the senior researcher at the Research Center in Sports Sciences, Health Sciences, and Human Development. He focuses on physiology as well. And one of the other things that is going to come up is the fact that he's a CrossFit master. Now, all three of our guests have extensive histories and experiences when it does come to sport, athletics, athletic training, and we can get very in-depth with those conversations. But we're going to keep it a little bit more specific in our conversation today as we take a look at health and physical activity. So thank you all for joining us. I know we got a couple of different time zones going on here with Dr. Victor and Dr. Victoria being located overseas. So thank you guys for joining us.
Yes,
thank you for inviting us.
Yes, very good. And you just compliment, Vika is also a medicine doctor in Russia. She participated in the Olympics. She was co-league for many years. We studied under the same professor, Viktor Nikolaevich Silyanov, in Russia during my master's, during my PhD. And we have articles together, so it's a pleasure to have you here, Vika. Thank you for taking the time. And also Professor Reis, Victor Reis, it's a colleague. I also visited him in Portugal. I love Portugal. We're going to talk that at the end. And he has more than 200 peer-reviewed articles, several publications, textbooks, a lot of postdoctoral students. So his resume is pretty long. So it's a pleasure to have you both. And move to Heather for the first question.
So I want to get specific, but before we do, I would love to take a moment to do a cross comparison of what physical activities are popular in the countries where you guys are joining us from. And Dr. Diaz, if you don't mind, I'd really like you to talk about Brazil, and then we can compare it to the United States a little bit later on. But when we look at Russia, Portugal, and Brazil, what are the most popular physical activities in each country? And in Dr. Victoria, if you don't mind if I start with you.
Okay, thank you for asking. I will try to answer by myself, and sometimes I will ask to help my colleague Stephanie. Okay, let's start. Stephanie, сейчас очень большая государственная поддержка в области физической культуры и спорта для всех возрастов.
Now, Russia is giving this big push with the government help in physical activity for the elderly. So there's a big movement going on in Russia.
Например, для людей старшего возраста есть государственная программа по занятиям физкультурой и спортом каждый день с сертифицированными специалистами бесплатно.
For example, now they have for the elderly, they have an incentive with the program, and especially in the big cities where the government pays exercise and science specialists to give free classes every day. So they have every day daily classes with a specialist for free. You just need to come and join.
А если говорить о среднем возрасте, то это такие виды физической активности, как марафон. И у нас есть крупное международное мероприятие «Московский марафон», где участвует много-много тысяч атлетов наравне с такими известными марафонами, как Нью-Йоркский марафон и так далее.
If you talk a little bit of younger population, the government also helps to develop a marathon program. And they have thousands of practitioners that come to participate, also led by specialists in the field. And they join and help and get prepared to big competitions, including Marathon of New York.
Спасибо. И если говорить о детях, то сейчас у нас большое движение связано с развитием студенческого спорта, детского спорта и спорта для детей дошкольного возраста.
If you talk in earlier ages, there's a movement that is being developed in the physical education programs in the school system. So they go from little kids, will be right like here will be kind of like the pre-K going to kindergarten and going also from elementary and middle school all the way to high school. That's always been developed since when I studied there 20 years ago. But now Vika said that the government's putting more effort to get back to those levels, those high levels of physical activity.
Спасибо, все верно.
Good, Helen.
Dr. Victor, same question for you. I mean, what are the most popular activities in Portugal?
Thank you, Heather. Just before answering, just let me reinforce, thank Kaiser University for this wonderful invitation. It's a pleasure to join this podcast. I have been watching for two or 3 months your podcast, and I'm very honored to join you today. Thank you to Stefan, good old time friend, and very happy to meet with Professor Victoria. So Heather, you can split just in terms of recent history up to 20 years ago, let's say until the end of the 20th century, physical activity was much connected with sports. So whoever enjoyed football played football. Whoever enjoyed running would run on the streets. But today, in the past 20 years, most of the physical activity which is spread over the country is concentrated in gyms, fitness centers, with their variety of programs. So they have every type of program. And also there are some municipalities, not all of them, but maybe 80% or more of our municipalities, they have their own physical education teachers who promote, for example, classes for the elderly, for the aged. The same as Victoria mentioned that happened in Russia. So these institutions, they provide free classes to the population. But the fact is that the percentage of active people is still clearly insufficient. So in terms of Europe, I cannot state the exact statistic, but I'm sure that we would be among the last third of the European countries in terms of active living.
If I can say about Brazil, so in Brazil, we saw back in the day some movement coming from the government, helping to develop, let's say, those outdoor exercise settings so you can come. But one problem is, like in contrast to Russia, see, they pay for a specialist because it's hard for me to invite, like, let's say, like my mom to go to a place like this, if there's no specialist there, she'll get lost with those equipment, understand? So you need to have somebody to explain to you, to guide you, to teach you the exercise at least like one time, worst case scenario, so they know what to do. Because if there's the equipment's there, and what I see, I still go every year, and I have friends that we talk constantly. Those machines are just getting there, getting dusted because people don't use it because they don't know how to use. So the government made a push to build those around the country, but if you don't teach people how to use it, it's very hard. So in the school, we still have, and then I'm going to mention later, but the physical education profession is pretty good. But again, they go more in what Brazil likes. So let's say soccer, so that's the number one sport. So pretty much every school, they teach you how to play soccer. And then that's your PE time during school. So they give you the ball and then let you play. There is still some schools, let's say private schools, that try to develop similar what we see here in the United States, to teach you some different modalities, different sports, and they're starting to build some facilities inside of the schools, but still not comparable to what we have in the United States. So the government, there is some incentive initiative, but it's not as good as Russia, I'll say this way, and then definitely not as accessible like Portugal or United States.
And thank you all for sharing that. I mean, it's very interesting to hear the government, is taking note and trying to get more involved in some countries, and hopefully that becomes a trend with other countries that aren't, because like Dr. Diaz says, if you're not being shown how to use or what to do, then you're missing the mark on that. But when we start talking about more specific trainings, where obviously in order to do them, you do need training. You do need someone who knows what they're doing to teach you. So when we look at high intensity interval training, what is the main adaptations with it in terms of health?
Okay, so just a small brief explanation. Originally, this type of interval training was developed, in the 50s or 60s of the last century in Germany by a medical doctor and a track coach, so an athletics coach. So they after experimenting with about 3,000 subjects, they ended up with this new training method, which involved running, because they majorly worked with runners, involved high intensity exercise intercept with short recovery periods. So we must understand that originally this was designed for cardiovascular performance. So this was designed to address the needs of athletes, not necessarily to promote health adaptations. However, we know that modern health concerns are much related or much dependent upon a good cardiovascular health. So we have several health conditions that depend usually on a good cardiovascular health. So you can state as a primary adaptation to high intensity interval training is a general good quality of cardiovascular health. Moreover, research also has shown clearly, for example, in individuals who are type 2 diabetes patients or are at risk of developing type 2 diabetes, the typical low intensity continuous exercise does not enables the body to full explore and develop its sensitivity to insulin. So in this type of subjects, where they are already diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, or they are not still type 2 diabetes patients, but they are candidates because of their lifestyle, their generally poor health indicators. There are specific adaptations related to insulin sensitivity, which are very much promoted with this type of high intensity training. And finally, as a third possible adaptation, you can mention that since most of the population that goes to gyms or training centers are attempting to increase its caloric expenditure so they can control their weight, so they can be in a better weight management status. This type of exercise also, as it promotes a high caloric expenditure, can be suitable for this type of person who are looking for a good weight control management.
If I can add, another good thing about HIIT training, high intensity interval training, it's because usually takes less time. And people nowadays, they don't have too much time because you got to work. Let's say you have your full-time job, you got to work 8 hours, you got to drive, you got to take your kids to school, do stuff. So you don't have, let's say, 2 hours to be in the gym training at a low intensity. So starting training athletes with the high intensity interval training, but this got transferred to the normal population. Why? Because they see, all right, I don't need to be 2 hours in the gym. I can do my workout in 45 minutes, less than 1 hour, sometimes 30 minutes. There's study like even less than that, right, Professor Reis? And you can have other benefits that you don't have as a long intensity. And of course, and we're going to talk more later in the different episodes. If you guys didn't see that, you can go on the Kaiser Voices and look. Of course, if you're starting, we recommend you start in a low intensity and gradually progress, building to this level. But after you have some certain amount of time and experience, you make a transition to high intensity interval training.
And I have a couple more questions about that, but I want to ask Dr. Victoria a question first, because I think the high intensity training, it's become very trendy in the US, if you will. And I want to expand on that. But first, Dr. Victoria, are there technologies out there that exist for recovery after the physical activity, whether we're doing height or low? What can we use to track that?
Я немножко, прежде чем перейти к вопросу, я немножко добавлю по тренировкам высокой интенсивности и по влиянию их на организм человека.
Yes, before answering your question, I want to compliment something about HIIT training and the influences on organism, the metabolism.
У меня есть опыт как у практического врача, не только работая со спортсменами, но и с пациентами. И одна из проблем, с которой я сталкиваюсь, это недостаточная информация о влиянии физических нагрузок на организм человека.
I also have experience working with professional athletes and amateur or just regular practitioners. And one thing that I noticed being a doctor, that sometimes they don't know all the details. The information is not available for them about the benefits.
Доктор Виктор говорил о влиянии высокоинтенсивных тренировок на метаболизм, на течение заболеваний сахарного диабета. И в России одной из проблем является недостаток информации об этих тренировках.
For example, Professor Reis mentioned the influence on the diabetes control, the influence on the metabolism, and we don't have enough information to the general population in Russia about those topics.
Да, и поэтому в настоящее время возникают новые технологии, которые помогают восстанавливаться после тренировок. Хотя, по моему мнению, если тренировка проводится правильно, то восстановление именно с точки зрения врача, доктора, лечебного воздействия не нужно.
So in those lines, there's a train of people trying to develop technology to make you recover quick. But in her expertise, when backed up by science, if you train properly, you don't necessarily need those tools, understand? Because people see the necessity, oh, I need to get something to recover quicker, to get better recovery time and time frame, but not necessarily if you have a right planning of your training. So if you have the proper periodization.
Одна из таких технологий – это применение, которой я занимаюсь на протяжении многих лет, это применение экзогенного оксида азота и технологии, связанные с оксидом азота.
So one of the areas that Vika has been developed for a couple of years and researching at university in the field is the utilization of NO. In English would be NO, right, Vika?
NO,
nitric oxide. Nitric oxide.
Nitric oxygen. It's это газомедиатор.
Yes. So the utilization of NO as ways to recover.
Да, у нас есть хороший опыт и разные способы получения оксида азота. Это физический путь, химический путь и в качестве газа, обогащенного оксидом азота.
So there's natural ways to improve your NO levels with exercise. So be endogenous, let's say this way. You can have as exogenous as with chemistry, so like supplements, and also with the utilization of gas. So or with gas.
I'm sorry, Stephanie. We all know the like tablets with nitric oxide, like supplements. It's a little bit different. I mean the химический способ синтеза оксида азота.
And also ways to build in a chemistry way. So with chemistry.
Yeah, thank you.
So, Dr. Victoria, when we look at the foundations of evidence-based training program, Isoton, what does that tell us?
Изотон – это научно обоснованная система из мира спортивной науки, которая позволяет достигать высокого результата с минимальными рисками для здоровья.
So Isoton was a method of training developed by our professor, and it's based on the literature, on the physiology, and how the human body works and everything, to get the most results, the best results, with the minimal negative influence in the body. So that's the.
И, на мой взгляд, интересным представляется изучение уровня оксида азота, потому что у каждого из нас есть свой базовый уровень оксида азота при занятиях физическими упражнениями по разным системам.
And one way that Vika has been researching is analyzing the level of natural level of NO in the body and how this we can manipulate and change with the proper exercise.
Да, спасибо.
So go ahead.
Еще немного слов об изотоне. Преимуществом изотона является то, что им можно заниматься в любом возрасте и без предварительного спортивной подготовки.
And another good thing about the Isoton methods, because you can utilize in a variety of experience and age levels, so from youth to elderly, and not necessarily you need to have like a background. You don't need to like HIIT training that you need to have a foundation first before you go, understand? So you don't need that for Isoton. You want her to explain a little bit?
И еще
So-
то, что доктор Стефани говорил про занятия спортом в Бразилии. Изотон не требует сложного оборудования дополнительного.
And another good thing, when I mentioned Brazil, that we have equipments, right, that people don't know how to use. But to utilize the Isoton method, you don't necessarily need to have fancy equipment.
So my follow-up question, for all three of you would be, Dr. Victor talked about shorter, quicker workouts,
Mhm.
and Dr. Victoria is talking about shorter, quicker recovery times. Do
Mhm.
they, is that such a thing? Do they go hand in hand? Like, everybody wants, quick results, and they don't want to have to deal with like long-term recovery. Is that such a thing to bring them both together, that we can have quick results with quick recovery?
Professor Reis, you.
Yes, like Dr. Stefan mentioned, a major concern nowadays is time. So, as we say, time is money. Everybody's fighting the clock. Everybody is chasing shorter and shorter ways to come up with their goals. But also in terms of physiology, a shorter recovery, it's a very relative term, because what is short for me may not be short for Stefan or for any other person. So I believe that Isoton, I have read some things, especially Professor Stefan's work. The issue is not the short recovery; it's the less damage to the structure of the body. It's less damage to tendons, to joints, to muscle. So more than a less or a quick recovery, it's less damage imposed on the body. But please, Victoria or Stefan, correct me, because you're the experts on this Isoton.
Yes, so I'll let Vika start to explain a little bit about the Isoton. Объясни как работает, коротко, и я добавлю.
Я поняла. Изотон – это упражнения, которые позволяют усиливать локальный метаболизм в работающих мышцах. Эта работа
Wait. So the whole idea of Isoton is to work in the local metabolism of the muscles. So we try to target local muscles.
Как мы говорим, мышцы мишени. И в этих мышцах увеличивается приток биологически активных веществ, гормонов, кровообращения. И поэтому процессы происходят быстрее, и процессы анаболизма происходят быстрее даже без приема специальных препаратов.
So usually, just to make it simple, usually we have two processes going on all the time: catabolism and anabolism in the body. So with the whole idea of Isotons, enhance the anabolism process in the muscles, localize, minimizing the catabolism. So for that, we don't use usually heavy loads. And also the way the methodology works, we try to enhance the protein synthesis, increase the protein synthesis, bringing active hormones acting in those cells.
И может быть оксида азота, но это является предметом дальнейших исследований.
And there's also some relationship to increase the nitric oxide, but this we're still researching on that. So just to make it simple, what do? When you imagine, Heather, you know what is a lunge exercise, right? When you do a lunge, okay. So a regular lunge, body weight, okay? The people go all the way down and then they come all the way up, correct? So for example, Me, Vitor Reis, Vika, they're professionals. They trained, exercising for years. When you do this with body weight, we only utilize the slow twitch muscle fibers. That's first to get recruited for this movement. If for us to get an effect, just body weight lunges, for example, we need to do 50, 80, maybe 100 lunges, all right? And then only after that, we start getting fatigue. Vitor Reis can do 200, Vitor, he's being like elite CrossFit. He's going to talk that later. So what Professor Silvianov saw that if you go down full range of motion, but you don't completely extend, so you keep the muscles under tension, and especially this based on physiology textbooks, if the load is 20 to 30% of your max, and then pretty much with our body weight, we can get that, this started to create occlusion. That occlusion make those slow twitch muscle fibers, they're very oxidative. That means they have a lot of mitochondria. They breathe. They can utilize oxygen to produce energy aerobically. So we started creating occlusion, and we forced those cells, those fiber cells, to work anaerobically. And then now what happens? They use their ATP, they phosphocreatine, and they start going to the anaerobic glycolysis, that you feel that little like burning sensations, like when you go do like a heavy weight and you do a couple reps and then they start feeling that burning sensation, that the high levels of hydrogen ions. So we build that. So pretty much with any exercise, going in a partial range of motion. So usually is made in a super series mode. So that means you do 30 seconds of this movement without fully relaxation, and without going fully up. After that, you rest for only 30 seconds and you repeat again. And then you repeat minimum of 3 times. So that's one superset, how we call it. From there, you create effects. So you can try this, anybody that's listened to this podcast later, you can try for any exercise and you see that's different. You're like, whoa, I've been doing lunges, I've been doing push-ups, I've been doing anything that body weight, and I never felt it this. Why? Because if you contract and relax, the blood flows, bring it again, and then once those fibers are very oxidative, they breathe, so they don't really get fatigued until you do hundreds of repetitions. So this way, it's a method that you utilize time, so it gets time efficient. And not only that, when you start building that tension, the time under tension with the muscles, generate a stress, and this psychological stress stimulate hypothalamus to produce natural concentrations of growth hormone, testosterone levels, and this creates this anabolic effect that Vika was saying. Okay?
Позвольте добавить, мне думается, что хорошей международной коллаборацией будет изучение ментальных процессов после упражнений не изотона и после упражнений, связанных с изотоном. Условия работы у меня в Сеченовском университете позволяют выполнить работу вместе с психиатрами и врачами другой специальности. Мне кажется, это просто, но должно быть очень красиво.
And she also wants to add and complement that future research could be the utilization, for example, of this type of methodology compared to regular methodologies, and then seeing how they influence the mood and the psychological components, because the mind and the body, they should be related. In this, even ancient Greek times, they knew about the importance, men's health in the human body. So mens sana and corpore sano, right, was the phrase. Russians love that, and I love that. So the mind-body connection, so this will be something to research in the future.
А вы знаете, что кроссовки Asics это аббревиатура Anima Sana in Corpore Sana, есть Asics.
I didn't even know she said that Asics, the brand Asics, it's a combination of those words in to add. And Professor Hayes is shaking the head that yes. All right, I didn't know. Good, Vika.
So I want to add for our listeners, as they're talking about exercises and specific types, it's always best to also consult your doctor to see what you can and cannot do. And then even more so, consult a professional if you're going to the gym, and we're going to talk a little bit more here in a moment about a specific type of training program, but also speak with a professional like our guests today who specialize in athletic training and sports training programs. So that looks like a personal trainer or somebody who's certified at your gym or municipality that can show you how to properly use the exercise equipment and properly do these exercises, because the whole point of this conversation is healthy. And if you don't know what you're doing, you don't know how to do it properly, you could do a lot of harm to your body and your head, everything. You can do harm if you're not doing these exercises properly or under the proper consultation of a doctor or certified professional. So I do want to add that in for our listeners. They have a lot of great advice, but it comes because they're the experts in it. But every individual person is different, limitations. You might not be able to do high level of reps like Dr. Victor, who does 200 lunges a day. You might have a little bit more limitations or a modified version that's safe for you. So please consult the appropriate professionals as we continue this conversation, because there's a lot of great health tips here for you. And that takes me to cross-training programs. There's a lot of different cross-training programs. There's been a lot of different cross-training programs over the years. They've changed. Some have come, some have gone, some have improved from earlier versions. And I think one of the more popular ones, at least here in the United States, and please correct me abroad, is such programs as CrossFit. So I know, Dr. Victor, you are a CrossFit master. Are these modern training programs appropriate when we look at health?
Yeah, sure they are. When programs such as CrossFit, okay, let's take CrossFit, which is the better example, and that, like you said, USA is the most popular, also in Europe. These programs started 15, 20 years ago. CrossFit was not the first, but they started as extreme conditioning programs. So they appear like a highly selective proposal, which was not for everybody. Although one of the major phrases popular in CrossFit is that CrossFit is for everyone, but not, well, there's some type of a popular phrase in CrossFit. I don't recall it right now, but we have to believe that it's not a program for the common population. It is not. Okay, first off. But from the past 10, 15 years, CrossFit and these extreme conditioning programs have been adapted to suit the needs of the general population. And nowadays, you can go into a big CrossFit gym and you can see classes for extreme conditioning people, young people, or even master athletes like myself, but we train in an extreme conditioning protocol. But you can see also adapted classes using some of the movements, using the same methodology, but designed specifically for aged people, for example, or for overweight people, or for young kids. So originally, these were extreme conditioning programs which were not designed to address the needs of the general population in terms of health, but with proper adaptations, with certified coaches, and especially isolating classes. If I am a novice, overweight individual who is going to attend a CrossFit class, I cannot go to the athlete CrossFit class, of course. So it is possible to address the needs of the general population, but with very strict adaptations.
Yeah, Vika.
Можно спросить доктора Виктора? Мне очень интересно то, что он рассказал. Несколько вопросов.
Yeah, of course.
Как он думает, может быть, есть смысл сделать классификацию, как, допустим, классификация по весовым категориям в борьбе или классификация по допуску, классификацию программ для кроссфита?
Vika had a good question. So, taking into consideration everything that Professor Victor said, do you think could be created something like classification? So, like it's almost like the levels. So, almost like they have in body weight, like by weight category or levels of expertise. So now, okay, for you, I don't know, just for example, level 1, you need to do those type of movements in something in those lines. If you can clarify, help us.
Yes, thank you, Vika, for your question. Very, very interesting and very tricky question, but it's very interesting. At this time, go on.
Я прошу прощения, мы могли бы вместе сделать эту классификацию, чтобы был некий допуск, и люди не волновались за свое здоровье, когда они выбирают программу.
Yeah, she wanted you to answer first, but she said that she'll be willing to help in creating something like that too. Okay, but explain, go.
Oh, the strict answer is no. There is not a strict separate classification to isolate which type of movements should we use with kids, which type of movements you should use with the aged people, which type of progression you can use when someone is starting a program. Like I said, it's important to have separate classes, okay? And if the coach is certified, he will be able to present, to offer something that is suitable for those people attending that class. But you are right. We should have a more strict and formal categorization of different movements, exercises, and different demands for different people. I agree with you. We don't have that for sure.
So let me add something here, Heather. So one of the questions I gave you, so do you have any regulatory body that oversees the profession? And then this, I think, links very well with this part here, because I'm originally from Brazil, and in Brazil, believe it or not, even the countries not being as developed as, let's say, Russia, United States, or Portugal, but in our field, we actually very advanced because we have a board of physical education that was made years ago, and then I had the chance to be for 4 years part of the board in my state, the state of Paraná. I was elected. We had back in the days 30,000 professionals, past 40,000 in the state of Paraná alone. And for 4 years, and the boards ensures that people that work in the field, they need to have a degree, minimum of bachelor's. Imagine, so in Brazil, to work with physical activity, you need to have a minimum of a bachelor's degree from accredited university. In the United States, we don't have that. And then that for me was a shock when I got here first time in 2008. I go in the gyms. Serious, this was a true story. I used to go to this Gold's Gym, do my workouts, and I see those girls working out there once in a while. Past a month, I see their picture in the wall. They become coaches, and then I was like, "What?" So no degree, nothing. Just they were in good shape. They saw this is an opportunity, so they trained her like in a month or so, and then the next month they start working as a coach. In Brazil, no, definitely not. You need to go to a university. In the United States, what's happening now? You see all those craziness that's going on, but some organizations like NSCA, National Strength and Conditioning Association, and American College of Sports Medicine, they're trying to create their own accreditation program. And Kaiser, we are aware of that, and we take in consideration with the whole team to move in that direction, because I think it's not as good as like in Brazil that we have a whole board that supervise, the whole country, but at least is a starting point because, having somebody that gives you accreditation and ensures that you know what you're doing, not only you give a better quality of service and you know how to create those progressions because, don't take me wrong, Professor, I know he loves CrossFit, okay? But we have good gyms with good coaches, let's say, that have background like us, but coaches that just practice, they went to a different gym and now they open their own box because they're in good shape. But doesn't mean that you fit and you know how to do the exercise, that you know how to teach, how to create progressions, working from like a 10-year-old boy to a 15-year-old overweight girl to somebody like in the 60s that never been in the gym. The same, that's the thing that university and we pretty much offer and try to guide you. Okay, so that I think is a big contrast that I see.
And you make a valid point because at least here in the US, anyone can open a gym, call it whatever they want, say that it does what it does, and you don't know because there's no one, when they open, okay, yeah, you're putting in a permit to open up a business and you're registering your business, but who's checking? Like, you guys have all spoken a lot about health and safety and proper practices, but when anybody can open up a gym, CrossFit gym or high intensity, or even just put out a bunch of machines, who's regulating it? And that's a very important distinction. And that goes back to my comment earlier that you should always consult with a professional, somebody who knows what they're doing, because at the end of the day, your health is what you're trying to work on, and that staying healthy through that is important too. There was another question, and I know Dr. Victoria had started to kind of speak towards it. Going back to the fast results, fast recovery, where does nutrition come in? Because that's the other piece of it. Like, is that nutrition? So you can't just, what's the phrase I'm looking for? You can't just like binge eat, if you will, after a high intensity workout. It defeats the purpose. So what should we know when it comes to nutrition when we talk about any of these exercise programs?
Yes, Vika.
У меня будет короткий ответ. У нас есть хороший опыт применения препарата. Это препарат янтарной кислоты российского производства, который помогает и в восстановлении, и помогает в улучшении функциональных резервов, функционального состояния.
So to make it short, of course, we can talk more on the nutrition. Nutrition is a very important component. We had actually a podcast that we recorded also. You can look it online. Okay. The Kaiser Voice series. And we're going to have another one in the future soon that we're going to talk a lot about nutrition. But in Russia, they developed this supplement that you can utilize and then help with, especially with the recovery. What would be the name in English, Vika, if you can translate?
The name of this supplement is cytoflavin, but it's
cytoflavin. Yeah. Cytoflavin.
Based on the янтарная кислота. I forget how to say in English янтарная кислота, but you can check.
Yeah, so cytoflavin. Yes. We do have in America, and then being using there, especially with Vika and the Sechena University that she works. They've been researching the effects of cytoflavin in recovery. And then in simple words, what it does. Объясни чуть-чуть, коротко, что делать.
Это препарат, который участвует в цикле Кребса, и преимуществом является то, что он разрешен для применения у профессиональных атлетов, не допинговый.
So one good thing about cytoflavin is that it helps with the Krebs cycle and how you produce energy. In another good way and good reason for utilizing is because it's not considered doping. So help with the energy production and it's not doping. And what about side effects? Побочные эффекты есть или нет?
Нет, потому что он аналог веществу, которое есть натуральное в организме человека.
And so far with the regular doses that they recommend when you buy the product, no side effects, and it's something that could be utilized. Again, consult with the registered nutritionist or dietitian or specialist, and there's cases that we could or not use. Okay, so just to make it clear here.
Да, спасибо.
Mhm.
Буквально 2 слова про кроссфит.
Mhm.
У нас, к сожалению, это движение не так хорошо развито, как в Португалии, Бразилии и в Америке.
Mhm.
И я считаю, что нужно начинать с образовательных программ. И в рамках Сеченова университета и университета физкультуры, я думаю, что мы можем запустить образовательные программы по кроссфиту и давать сертификат государственный или международный.
Vika said a nice thing in comparison to Brazil, Portugal, and the United States. CrossFit is not really well developed in Russia, but she's willing and could, especially connect with Professor Reis to try to develop a program to teach at the university level. For example, Sechenov University, that's a big university there in Moscow, to create, to actually make qualified professionals. That will be the word, not just people that, I go there, I see Victor doing his exercise and I copy and then try copy and paste, so actually know the fundamentals and get trained for that. That's good. All right. And one more thing about nutrition. Again, we're going to have a different episode just about that, but it's important for you, especially after a workout, and if you have like those intense workouts, that you could wait, let's say, like 30 minutes, let's say, to start having you eat. You can drink water, whatever you want to drink, but mostly water, because that's the window that your metabolism is more accelerated. So especially if you try to speed up your metabolism or burn fat or lose weight, so you wait a little bit of time after your workout, let's say 30 minutes. And one simple recommendation, we just have, let's say, a protein shake. Why? Because the protein start to repair the muscles, but you still in accelerated mode. So that means you can still burn more fat in that process and wait later to have, let's say, a carbohydrate or even a fatty, but you don't want to have too much fat food after a workout. If you train like semi-professional or competing like Vitor, that would be a different story, because now you need to recover quick. So now you need to have carbohydrates, especially if you're an athletic population that trains twice a day. So let's say you have a morning workout and then you have an evening workout. Now you need to speed up so that changes up a little bit. So, but that's good. Professor Vitor, yes, you want to add something?
No, not necessarily, Stefan. I was just agreeing with you. Really, even with athletes, well, I'm not a nutritionist, a dietitian, but of course I am very aware of the needs of nutrition and the role of nutrition in general, exercise, recovery, and usually I advise, even like I said, athletes to start with that protein shake post exercise in the first 20 minutes, half an hour before the carbohydrate. I think it's a good option, irrespective of if you're an athlete or not. So I agree completely with that idea.
Nice.
До нашей встречи я не знала, но теперь я знаю, почему у нас такой хороший подкаст, потому что мы не только ученые, мы все трое еще и спортсмены.
So Vika wanted to add, before the podcast, she didn't know for sure why this podcast is good, and you can take our word, because we're not only like professors that research, but we exercise and we practice what we preach. So that would make give more fundamentals.
Dr. Victor, if you don't mind, I have one more question for you. When we take a look at the modern version of high intensity trainings, when we look at the modern versions versus the classical versions, do they provide the same adaptation between the two, or has it changed classic to modern?
Yes, the same and some more. So your question is about the high intensity functional training, which is the modern variation of the traditional high intensity interval training. So high intensity functional training, it's nothing more than using different movements, like typically in cross training, to attain the cardiovascular demand as predicted or as warranted by the original high intensity interval training. When I said that HIFT would induce the same adaptations and some, because with very different and varied movement patterns, you can further enhance, for example, agility, coordination. So you have a better scheme of motor abilities that you cannot develop as much when you are doing high intensity interval training in a monostructural exercise, such as running or rowing or bicycling. So these functional training or these cross training approaches, they provide a more richer motor experience to the general population. So that's why I said that they provide the same adaptation and some more. Just to finish, even at the local muscle, even if you consider local muscle adaptations, it is possible to see some type of adaptation in morphology, even hypertrophy, with these high intensity functional training programs, which is not as expected in the original high intensity interval training. Thank you.
Heather, just got an idea. So once Professor Reis, and again, guys, sorry, the time goes fast, we have so much information to share. But talking about high intensity interval training and high intensity functional training for our webinar series, I think I'm going to invite Professor Reis for next year so he can do a whole webinar for us for the graduate school. Is that okay with you, Professor Reis? You can.
Of course, Stefan, I would be honored. Thank you very much.
So very nice. This way we can have a whole, webinar about that, and he can give you like an example, an explanation, even pictures and videos. Great. So going towards the end, Heather already know I have what is called against the wall. So I'm going to put you against the wall. Don't run. Answer quick. Don't think too much. All right. So let's start with the first one. What is your favorite sport, Professor Reis?
Of course, today is CrossFit.
I knew that. Heather, what do you like the most? What sport?
So I grew up always playing softball, but I really enjoy watching American football, but I'm also starting to get into international football as well.
Great. Vika?
Конечно, современное пятиборье и каждая из дисциплин по отдельности, потому что, ты знаешь, я всю жизнь занималась пятиборьем, и, может быть, доктору Виктору интересно, что его коллега из Португалии, мой хороший друг, доктор Джао Альмеида, был доктором национальной сборной Португалии и знает меня еще, когда я была членом сборной команды. Мы вместе были на чемпионатах мира.
So Vika said modern pentathlon. She used to compete modern pentathlon. She went to the Olympics, national championship. She knows professor colleague from Vitor Reis, João Almeida, correct, Vika? Yeah, João Almeida was the lead coach there and competitor also.
Доктор,
So,
и
doctor,
доктор,
my bad, my bad.
и доктор, и тренер.
Doctor e trainer, João Almeida from Portugal. Great. So modern pentathlon. For me, will be strength training. I love it, keep in shape. And I do soccer for fun, for my cardio every week with my kids. So those are my two sports at the moment. Great. Next one. Do you prefer working with professional athletes or amateur, Professor Reis?
Amateur.
Amateur. Why, if I can do a follow-up question?
You know, I strictly separate. My profession is to teach in the university, but in practice, sports, it's like an hobby. It's like a passion. So if it's not a profession, I'd rather be with amateur than with professional athletes.
Great, great. Vika, профессионали или любители? Что бы
С кем я люблю тренироваться?
Да, работа или тренироваться, или консультироваться.
Я, отвечу немножко по-другому. То, что я люблю тренироваться или вместе делать работу с позитивными и умными людьми.
Oh, good. So she said instead of picking professional amateur, she likes to work with people that have great positivity and the right mentality to learn and improve. I like it, Vika. With me, I've been involved with professional athletes for years. There's pros and cons. The pro, usually they're very motivated and I try to bring the max out of those. So I like that. But sometimes it's hard, and sometimes I prefer with the amateur or beginners. Why? Because they don't have too much of expertise and you can teach them the right way, teach them correctly. Sometimes you have a professional, a pro. I work with like former Olympians, let's say, for example, and they have bad habits. And then now it's hard for you to change because they say, oh, I made it to the Olympics. And you're like, yes, but, there's better ways. There's, let's say, modern ways to do. So sometimes it's hard to change when they come with this gigantic expertise. So this way with the beginners, if they're motivated, like you said, Vika, like positive mindset, I go with that route. Great. If you had to choose a sport, I'll put you against the wall. Sport, basketball or soccer, Vika? Need to pick one, just one.
Прошу прощения, но баскетбол.
Basketball, okay. Heather, soccer or basketball?
I find soccer more interesting
Soccer.
than basketball. I mean, if we were talking like high school, college basketball, that's one thing. But once you hit professional, like lose interest.
Vitor?
Basketball. Soccer, you only use your legs. Basketball, you use your full body.
Your whole body, all right. I like it. Very good. I'll be in the soccer side here. Good. If you need to choose one activity, you prefer cardio or strength related, Victor?
That's the worst nightmare question you've ever made me. Well, I cannot choose. They're both
You gotta choose one, Victor. Come on, this is against the wall. Just one. If you need to pick one today, okay, you gotta do exercise today. Cardio or strength training related weights?
I'll go with strength.
Strength, okay. Vika?
Я как врач тоже выберу силовую, потому что это огромные преимущества в борьбе с саркопенией.
So like a medicine doctor, I pick resistance training because prevents sarcopenia, So very good for the muscles, also for the bones, preventing osteoporosis. There's a bunch of benefits. That's why I go in that route too. If I have to pick one. All right. Now this could be for all of us. If you could choose to live, I'll start with Heather. In any country, where do you want to leave or wish you could leave, Heather? In the whole world.
In the whole world.
Yeah.
So This is a very tough question. This is
Yeah.
a good one. I would I would say Ireland. I have ancestry that
Mhm.
we can trace back all the way to Ireland, so I'm gonna go with Ireland with this answer.
Ireland, great. Vika, ти хотела жить любой
Я
стране.
поняла.
Ага.
Для меня главное, чтобы было тепло и теплое море или океан.
Oh, okay, for her, good. Will be good weather, warm and ocean. Oh, love it, love it. Good, Professor Hayes.
So I'm gonna go with Portugal, not because Portugal is that much good or better than other countries, but because I'm getting too old to change my life, so I'd rather
Yeah,
stay
that's
here.
that's true. That's true. If I could pick and had no crimes, I would be in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. I was born there. I still have family there, but it's so hard now that it's just impossible. Even this year, my kids want to go there. Say no, my aunts, my cousin says too dangerous. Don't come. So Rio de Janeiro is beautiful. If you've never been there, I took Professor Seluyanov there. I took
Я
other
знаю.
professors from Russia. They love it. Was it winter had, and they still went to Copacabana and jump in the water. And the water is cold there, but they were so happy to be in Copacabana that they jump in the water. Was a great moment. I have a lot of good memories. So it's a beautiful place. Rio will be my place. And then last one, if you have a chance to visit or revisit, what would be a city that you like to go? Heather, maybe one day you already went or you have interest going.
So I have quite a lengthy list, and I was telling Dr. Victoria, Moscow, because of its
Moscow.
the history and the architecture, is one of those cities. But I would love to spend more time in Montreal. I went one time to the historic district. There's something just about the history, the architecture, the art that you don't see today in those countries that take the opportunity to preserve that history and that architecture. And so it'd be places like that where you could see the history and the architecture and it's still standing.
Nice. Great job. Great job. Vika?
Когда я была членом национальной сборной, я была и в Соединенных Штатах Америки, и в Португалии, в Австралии, и во многих других странах. Но, честно скажу, лучше всего, конечно, на родине.
Okay. So when she was part of the national team for modern pentathlon, she traveled to United States, Australia, Portugal, many countries, but she still prefer her country, because of the nation and everything. That's good. Professor Vitor?
I'm going with Rome, and the only reason we're not picking Rio de Janeiro, it's the same as you, violence.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it would be the first choice, just
yeah,
to
yeah,
visit or
real.
to live.
Yeah, it's a shame. Okay, and then me, similar to Hada, I've been in Moscow many years, lived there. If you never visit, it's amazing. Now, the situation going on, but when this thing comes down, it's beautiful, especially during winter because the whole city was made with the snow and the lights. This goes very well. One thing I regret I didn't have a chance, but maybe one day I'll go. It's St. Petersburg in Russia also. It's one of the historical cities, beautiful. I've seen millions of pictures. My friends visited. So one day maybe I'll go. All right, Heather.
I want to take a moment to thank all of you for joining us, Dr. Victor, Dr. Victoria. We so appreciate your time, especially I know it's very late in Portugal and Russia right now. So I appreciate you guys joining us and sharing your expertise. And Dr. Diaz, as always, we love having you on here, and thank you for connecting us with these wonderful guests. So thank you guys.
Yes, it was a pleasure, Vika, Professor Hayes. Let's keep moving our collaboration for articles, research, and especially for this webinar series. Professor Hayes, we talk. It will be a pleasure to have you here also, the graduate school.
Thanks for having me.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
guys.
guys.
And if you guys have enjoyed this conversation, be sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow. And also take a look down in the comments. We're going to connect you with our guests today. They have a lot of great expertise that we'd like to share with you. And as you've heard live here on this podcast, there's going to be some other conversations coming out of this episode. So make sure you do stay connected with us. And as always, we will catch you on the next one.
Thank you for journeying with us today on Kaiser Voices, the Story of Success. As we close this chapter, remember, every story has its next page.